we do have some ongoing severe weather with tornadoes going on right now, and I wanted to talk a little bit about uh, what we've had here over the last couple of hours. And I want to focus in here. We're going to start by looking at, got to reload this data here, but for those of you that may have been following along in my live chat, we had there have been a couple of what appear to be fairly significant tornadoes this evening across central and eastern Illinois, as well as southwestern Indiana, um, and they have a pretty good some pretty good radar signatures that I thought would be good to take people through to just kind of show some of the things that we look at here. So this this initial tornado I want to talk about was near Effingham, Illinois, a little after 8 o'clock, and I'm going to zoom in here. You can see we have this really well-developed supercell here, um, just to the north of Effingham. Effingham is right here where my cursor is highlighting on the upper left-hand panel. This is radar data from Evansville, Indiana, and Effingham is where Interstate 70 coming up from uh, St. Louis merges with Interstate 57 coming up from Southern Illinois. And you can see here the rotation is intensifying as the storm passes Shumway. And as it gets past Shumway here, um, you can see the rotation gets quite strong. We've got 50 to 60 mile an hour inbound winds toward the Evansville radar and similar values outbound. And we can see here, and I'm going to circle uh, this debris signature that develops. We have this lowering of correlation coefficient data co-located. That's in the lower left-hand image, co-located with the strong rotation. And basically what we're getting there is debris is being lofted by the tornado, and the radar is picking up um, different sizes, different shaped material, and that shows up as low correlation coefficient here in this product here in the lower left. And with time, we can actually see some enhancement to the reflectivity itself here in the upper left. So in other words, there the debris that's being lofted is so reflective that it's actually causing an increase in the power that's being returned back to the radar. And if we look down here in the lower left, again at the correlation coefficient, and whoops, I hit the wrong button. Let's go back. If we look at the if we go up in elevation, sorry, it keeps wanting to update because new data is coming in. If we look aloft here at like 8:22 p.m., we can see there's actually debris being picked up at higher elevations of the radar. So what we're seeing here is a relatively deep debris signature, which is indicative of a pretty strong tornado. And it appears like this tornado tracked, and I'm gonna get the radar data out of the way here so I can just show the track. It looks like this tornado started up here around Shumway and tracked southeast down here toward where Interstate 57 and 70 come together, and then down to the east of Effingham. My understanding is there have been reports of quite a bit of structural damage, some homes destroyed, as well as some injuries. So that was the first tornado I wanted to talk about. And the other one here is um, I'm going to switch radars here to Indianapolis. And we had a pretty significant tornado occur more recently within like the last 45 minutes here uh, in southwest Indiana near this town of Gosport. Let me zoom in here. You can see Gosport right there. And my computer is being very slow. Now it's being very fast. The hazards of modern technology. So this storm, I actually highlighted it in the chat because it was showing pretty strong rotation off of the both the Indianapolis and the Evansville radar. And to be honest, the Weather Service in Indianapolis appears to have been late with issuing the initial warning for this storm. Uh, it had a TDS already here at 8:45 when the tornado warning was first issued. But then it became the debris signature again became quite impressive with not only uh, again not only showing up in the correlation coefficient, but also showing up in some of the reflectivity data. As we go to this next volume scan here, you can see we have the strong rotation. Well, let me turn it on. We got the strong rotation, but you have this really strong uh, um, 60 to 65 dBz reflectivity, really high reflective power back to the radar, co-located with the decrease in correlation coefficient. So it looks like we had another significant tornado go on here. Um, it's also interesting. You can see this very strong outbound winds uh, to the northeast of the actual circulation, which may be indicative of some sort of like a forward flank downdraft in the storm, and probably helped generate the spin that got all this going. But this was actually a pretty persistent, uh, relatively long track tornado. If you think it started back here to the southwest of Gosport, and it's still going here. A good 15 to 20 minutes later, still a really, really strong reflectivity signature of debris along with the correlation coefficient. And if we go up in elevation, we can see it's very clear here, even at some of the higher elevations. So again, it seems pretty likely there was a pretty significant tornado here. Just to give your bearings a little bit, we're about maybe 20 miles north of Bloomington. And so let's take a look at what's going on the radars right now. We have several tornado warnings in effect. Um, I don't know why this is being so slow. Let me try reducing the frames here so that we're not downloading as much, since I'm just going to look at live data. Or not. Actually, I'm going to close that and restart it. Again, live television. So we've got several warned supercells currently, tornado warned supercells. Um, a couple of the stronger ones appear to be, this one here that, has just, crossed into Indiana to the southwest of Bloomington. There's also some, kind of more linear rotation along this, kind of evolving quasi-linear convective system going through Bloomington and, areas to the south of Franklin. All of this, we could see a quick tornado spin up with this in here. I would think that we would be more concerned about this, uh, supercell back here, to the north of, um, Evansville for more of a, significant tornado risk. Let's take a look at that from the Evansville radar, and you can see here, pretty decent rotation, um, with this storm just to the, uh, northwest of Carlisle, Indiana. I don't know why the reflectivity is not coming in, because I wanna take a look at that because there is some hint there that there might be some debris. Uh, Switch radars. There we go. So, yeah, no, it's not doesn't look like there's a debris signature right now, but there is definitely some strong rotation, uh, as I said, near to the northwest of Carlisle, so that storm is tornado warned. There's another tornado warned storm back here, in southern Illinois to the south of Effingham, a different storm than the earlier one. It is showing some rotation here to the southeast of Effingham, so I wanted to show, uh, what we're expecting as far as this activity, uh, as far as its, likelihood to continue overnight. I'm gonna go ahead and turn that off so it's not hogging the memory. So, this is the significant tornado parameter, um, valid at 8 p.m., and we look at 9 p.m., which is essentially the current time, we can see pretty high values here along and just south of Interstate 70 between Effingham and Indianapolis. And that's significant tornado parameter essentially combines instability and low level wind shear into one parameter to give us a quick view of um, how favorable the atmosphere is for tornadoes. And these values greater than 4 here are indicative of significant tornadic potential. So it's not overly surprising um, that we're getting tornadoes, especially given what we've been talking about the last couple days with a very strong weather system coming through, unusually strong for June. Um, while the values start to decrease as we get toward, midnight, they're still pretty high here across Southern Indiana and Southern Illinois. So as these storms slide to the southeast, they've probably peaked as far as, the number, and intensity of tornadoes, but they're still gonna have probably a pretty significant risk of severe weather, including tornadoes, as they push toward, the Ohio River this evening. And in fact, you can see there's even a little bit of an increase uh, in the values as this axis gets centered on the Ohio River, and that's likely because the low level winds are actually increasing. So even though we're losing some of the instability, the low level wind shear is increasing and kind of offsetting some of that and keeping the atmosphere relatively favorable for severe weather and potentially some tornadoes. And then eventually, as we get in toward morning, things should finally really begin to spin down. But definitely for the next several hours between now and midnight, there's definitely uh, continues to be a significant risk of tornadoes with this activity. And while the storms may become more linear, starting to see that a little bit now with some of that activity around Bloomington getting more of a quasi-linear formation. Even with the quasi-linear, um, structure, there's still gonna be a tornadic risk as these storms push towards Cincinnati, Evansville, and Louisville. So, the other thing I wanna talk about tonight is, um, Arthur. And let me call up satellite now. And go down and take a look here. And if we look at some shortwave infrared imagery, which enables us to look at um, not only where the thunderstorms are, but also kind of where the spin is, we can see kind of the low level circulation. The low level circulation with this system is now broadening out and inland here over the Houston area, where all of the thunderstorm activity is way to the east of that. Um, to be honest, this system has looked pretty uh, crappy, for lack of a better word, um, through its entire life cycle. It's never looked like a typical tropical system. It's had more of an extratropical look to it with the storms way off to the east, but um, it has been producing tropical storm force winds over the Gulf and even along the coast, east of Houston and Galveston. So, as we've been saying all along, the main risk with this is gonna be the heavy rainfall and flooding, and most of the day today, most of the storms have been offshore, but we're starting to see with nightfall, we start to tend to get more of the tropical activity starts to increase, and we're starting to see some of these, uh, heavier tropical showers and thunderstorms starting to develop across, eastern Louisiana and into southern Mississippi. And as the system kind of broadens, the low level jet of winds on the east side of the low coming up out of the Gulf are going to be bringing really deep tropical moisture up into southern Mississippi, eastern Louisiana, eastern and central Louisiana, and eventually into um, Alabama and the western Florida panhandle. And uh, even as the storm is, such as it is, is weakening, um, the expanse of heavy rainfall and the rainfall rates are likely going to increase as this tropical moisture really starts to surge inland and starts to interact with these systems that are passing to the north that are causing the severe weather to the southwest. There's a favorable upper level jet pattern for these to help ventilate these thunderstorms and really enable them to produce a lot of heavy rainfall. So I want to take a look here at we've got the newest, um, here, let me turn that off. We've got the newest HER high resolution rapid refresh model um, that's just come in. Let's take a look at what it's showing as far as heavy rainfall. The previous hour run was showing some insane stuff over central Louisiana, which didn't really, to be honest, make a lot of sense. Because especially as you look right now, the way these storms are developing, I think we would expect the heavier rainfall to be farther east, and that seems to be what we're seeing here with the latest HER model. And as I've been talking about in um, the posts the last couple of days, while we would expect that we're going to see widespread heavy rain of 3 to 5 inches. There's going to be these localized spots where heavier showers and storms train for several hours, and we're going to get some of these local, really heavy amounts. And you can see this showing up in the HER, with it showing like 21 inches here over Pearl River County over the next 48 hours, 20 inches here over Hancock County, Mississippi. And again, like I was talking about in last night's update post, you're not going to get the odds of the of these models getting the exact locations of these heavier rainfall totals is very slim, but really what we're just trying to see is what the model is generating just to give us an idea of what some of these localized heavy totals could be. So we could definitely be looking at some localized 12 to 24-inch rainfall amounts, um, anywhere really here from the Florida parishes of eastern Louisiana across southern Mississippi and into South Alabama and the western Florida panhandle between now and Friday morning. Another risk that we're gonna have, and let's see if the HER is picking up on this. We'll probably also see some potential for some tornadoes with these with all this strong wind shear. We would expect that we're gonna see, even though these storms will be kinda shallow, in depth as far as the rotation goes, that's typical in these tropical atmospheres, and with really deep moisture, um, you can get, spin ups of, uh, weak to maybe even occasionally EF2 tornadoes with some of these, uh tropical supercells, and you can see here this is the rotation track forecast from the HER, and we can see it's got some of these paths of higher low level rotation indicative of um, where the model is thinking that there could be some of these tropical supercells producing some potential tornadoes. And if we look at the outlook from SPC, we can see there is a slight risk of severe storms overnight tonight as these storms continue to increase across eastern Louisiana and South Mississippi. They'll have an increasing risk of a few tornadoes. And while right now it's just a marginal risk across the Southeast, I would expect that we're probably going to see a slight risk eventually issued for parts of at least Mississippi and Alabama, and maybe even some areas further east, as some of the models have been showing that the shear is going to start to increase as with a combination of Arthur's remnants and what's going on with the system coming in from the northwest that's producing the severe weather tonight. So, um, I think that's the main stuff I wanted to talk about. Um, for now, I wanted to just kind of illustrate what some of what's been going on with the thunderstorms tonight. I will show here real quick before we go the current storm reports, and you can see there's really been a concentration of storm reports over Illinois Central and East Central Illinois. Um, right now, there's just a few tornado reports in there, but those will definitely increase as the Weather Service starts to catch up on storm reports and starts to get some of that data in there. You can actually also see there was uh, a weak tornado down here in southeast Alabama today, well to the east of Arthur, and that's the kind of activity we would expect that we're probably going to see over the southeast again tomorrow. So, does anybody have any quick questions they want to put in the chat? Otherwise, I will go ahead and wrap up. All right. Well, thank you all. Thanks for the patience with my audio issues earlier and um, with radar scope being a little clunky on me tonight, but um, appreciate it and uh, appreciate your support of balanced weather. And we'll talk to everybody soon. Thanks.